touch the light, the heat I see in your eyes. In your eyes. In your eyes. In your eyes.
Hey everybody,
Hi, everybody.
welcome to Getting Back to Me, Both Sides of the Story, episode 28.
Wow, pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, pretty cool.
And today we're going to be talking from chapter which? Scottie's book, Getting Back to Me.
22. This is from the chapter Too Late to Go Back to Sleep. This whole chapter
I
talks...
hope everybody's seen Wicked.
Ah, that would be nice. So when the coming out process, I was actually being pretty systematic. I was. It only felt haphazard. And I made concentric circles.
Yes, it's true.
That's right. And,
Sort of.
and they're the ways in which our life and the degrees of which people are in our life. And also the criteria was if somebody in those circles would have felt bad to hear this news secondhand, and they were moved into an inner circle. And it kept working its way out until finally
Well, we sort of learned the hard way because there were a couple people who felt like, gosh, why couldn't you trust me to tell me sooner?
That's correct.
So that was a big lesson.
But they were telling me this while I was telling them in person. So they
Yeah,
were still
but-
inside of that circle. We at
Yeah.
least knew that.
Yeah,
so.
but they actually didn't
Yes.
hear until other people had.
The final circle was Facebook, when all I did was change my name and profile picture, and with no explanation whatsoever.
Oh, yeah.
So one of the circles was a group called the Tag Team. Hi, boys. Now, I had helped form the Tag Team with all the guys that I studied TV with. And every year since we graduated from San Diego State in the television department, we've all gone on to our careers. About 70% of us are in TV still. The other 30% have kind of come in,
Branched off.
and but stayed tight with everybody. And we go skiing every year, or we call it the ski trip. It just has the name, the ski trip. And getting ready for that ski
Well, you
trip.
started it in college, right?
That's right. That's right. I go into
You.
that, but I started it.
Started.
Yes, that's an important point.
Thank you.
Yes. And getting ready for the ski trip is an email letter that goes around with everybody on it, and it's the raunchiest thing you've ever seen, and it's filled with misogynistic jokes that offended me over the years. But, you know, boys are going to be boys, right?
Well,
Apparently.
unfortunately.
Right. Well, these guys are some of my closest friends. That's just the important part to remember. So, what happened was, I got married. And that's when I discovered that it was suddenly a boys-only trip. Now, I never, because I was one of the founding members, I never created this. I would never do that. That was stupid. But somehow everybody got it in their head that this was a boys-only trip. And this happened because I wanted to bring Marcy. Because we do everything together. But this started...
And
World War
I was a skier, like majorly. My brother was a ski instructor. I spent every winter on the boards in the snow.
That's right. So we couldn't understand why it was going to cause such a big deal.
Maybe they were just afraid that I would be better than
That's right. Now,
them. Because I am.
Right.
Except Kenny.
So, I'll start reading.
Okay, please do.
But when my love and I were queuing up to have her come, the fit hit the shan, and I saw a side of my bros that made me queasy. I was welcome, but the girl
Moi.
was not.
Haha. Surprise.
What is this? When did we become the He-Man Women Haters Club? I admit, I didn't take their decree seriously. I mean, how could I? First off, these trips ain't cheap. And we all got older, we wanted more, bigger, better, and cooler. which made the cost of a weekend the same as if my love and I went and spent a week skiing at Mammoth. It didn't make sense. If I was going to blow that much powder, pun intended, on seeing them, my love would and should come too. But here's where my tendency to see how everything could work slammed broadside into the group mentality, and I admit I was caught up short. This started World War III, which resulted in each one of them taking turns trying to convince me of the folly of my feelings. It wasn't as simple as me not skiing. They wanted to make me change my mind and come. This was completely against our stated philosophy of ski or don't ski. WTF. I couldn't do it. How was I supposed to kiss my love goodbye and have fun when she was at home wanting to be with us? This is the conundrum that these guys could never understand because they were looking at me as if I were a guy. So I opted out quietly, but missed them terribly, and after a while, that missing them festered into full-blown hurt that my protest never yielded the change. I did stay on with them, the ski or don't ski email chain also, and I tried to see them separately as opportunities presented themselves throughout the years. We remained close, despite not seeing me in winter clothing, and when my schedule in these most recent years even made it possible, I'd call in from some remote part of the world by satellite phone, which only added to my legend. But these are the men I love, and I needed to have the chat with them, each one individually, before they would read about me on Facebook. So I began a week of calls.
Each with different results.
But they all had a kind of a general theme. Two things that were interesting about those calls. One was, I learned through other calls to just cut to the chase and say, I have something to tell you. And they would go, what? And I would say, I'm a woman. And there'd be silence. And
I have two questions for you. I think that was my favorite.
My dear friend Stay Puff, that's a ski trip nickname, he said, I have two questions for you.
Because of his parka, don't...
Yeah, it's just a thrift store parka that he rocked on the slopes, and then it became something that he had to bring every ski trip for the next 10 years until it finally fell off of him. But he said, I have two questions for you. Number one, are you punking me? No, Puffy, I am not. Okay, then number two, are you happy? So they all are great men. Even though they act like stinky boys when they're all together, they're all great men. And the next question out of each one of their mouths was, how's Marcy? So that meant that they knew that they were talking to me. They knew how important Marcy is to me, and so they knew to talk to me. But what was interesting was then they all thought that they were cool with it, but all the other guys on the tag team would have a problem with this. And they couldn't wait to hear how it was going to go. So the reason I wanted to talk about this today is I wanted to talk about a little bit about the outside world's perceptions, particularly of a married couple, and the ways in which they're expected to be. Because there's no area of our life that's been better exemplified than this particular one. Everybody thought that you should be okay. They just thought, well, why can't Scott go and ski with the boys? Why won't Marcy? They thought Marcy was the one.
They thought it was my fault.
They thought Marcy was the one doing this.
I even got a few of the calls myself, by the way.
Why won't you let Scott come skiing with us? Yeah, like I was, all the things that boys would use in those phrases, which are gross phrases I'm not even going to say. But they all thought it was, I had no say in it, and it was all you.
Yeah, well, you're whipped. That's why.
Right, that was the phrase I wasn't going to say.
I didn't say the whole phrase.
You didn't have to.
Whistling dirty tunes, as my mother would say.
But isn't that weird? It's like they actually thought, well, finally Bobby confessed.
What?
That he didn't want his girlfriend.
Well, yeah. I mean, I was being punished because basically some of them didn't want the particular female companion at that time to also come. And if they change the policy for me, yada yada. So isn't that funny how that's so typical way to think anyway? It's that, well, if we let you do it, ... That's one thing. That's like a whole nother subject that to me always leads us to the lower common denominator in lots of decisions. Decisions by banks about how they carry on their business, because if they make it too easy for someone to commit fraud, they have to have stiffer rules, and all of us have to wait for our deposits or whatever it is. It's just so many decisions get based on the potential for crime. But yeah, what you said about perception. But what strikes me too is how perception leads to opinion. And then decisions are made based on opinion.
Opinion, not fact.
Right. So I think we're seeing that so much now anyway in this 2016 year. And how much falsehood can be carried out based on what someone thinks is a fact, then an opinion, and then a decision or an action based on it. And maybe we're here to say, don't be so quick to jump to conclusions.
Totally. I mean, everybody jumps to the same conclusion. It's like, well, the next question, when I'm talking to men, only when I'm talking to men, do they say, so what about Marcy?
Well, they don't mean what about Marcy that way. They
I know,
mean,
that's what I mean. Let me
right,
get there.
Okay.
I say, Marcy and I are great, and we're figuring it out, and we're going for it. And they go, oh.
Yes, but.
Well, but what about, are you gay? I'm like, well, yeah, actually, technically, yes. I am a woman in love with a woman. Makes me a lesbian. And they go, no, are you gay? I'm like, well, I just said I was.
Well, no, because they're assuming
they're
now
saying,
that you're a woman.
Are you into boys?
Right.
Which means, okay.
I'm out of the picture.
Well, but no, that means that they're not regarding me as a woman, because if I would be into boys and be
well, that's
gay,
what I mean. Perception led to
right.
Opinion, led to
just
conclusions.
Like pretzel logic.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so that means what that means is that they're not accepting me as a woman. That means that they're saying, oh, you're just weird and you're into boys.
But there's that second assumption that women must. If you're a healthy woman, you're into men. There's that too.
If they didn't break that, okay, so yes, that's a completely separate issue. Yes,
but it's connected. It's not separate.
Well,
it's the conclusion that comes from okay, if you're a woman,
but
then
in their heads they're
you're
saying, "Are you gay?"
Right.
That's where it's completely jacked up. It's like, okay, so you didn't hear that I'm a woman.
Well,
okay, so then we go the next step. We get them to accept that, right?
Which that you're a woman.
That I'm a woman, which is like, I don't need your acceptance of that, but whatever. Then they go, well, so then you must well, if you're a woman, then you better be into boys.
Right, like, that's what I'm saying.
Right, so that's the next step, right? And that's the part. It's like, no, I told you, Marcy and I are good. And they're like, well, how could you be? Well, then you're not a woman, which means you're just like getting rid of, like, you're throwing all the lesbians out of the country.
Right.
Like, what? How does that work? So, and also, how do somebody on the outside get to make a decision about somebody's on the inside, their life and heart? Why are we so quick to think that that's our prerogative in this country?
We overlap and overstep and interject in so many ways. We were just talking about this the other day, and looking at this phenomenon of things like, why is it suddenly okay if there's a pregnant woman nearby that you think it's okay to touch her belly?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It's still her belly, but it's suddenly okay to impose yourself in their space.
Yeah.
We have a dear friend who, even opinions, like a dear friend who is pregnant with twins, and overheard two women talking where one woman said, oh, she can't be as far along, she must be further along than she's saying, or something's wrong because she's too big to be at that stage in her pregnancy, and because she's strong and stands up for herself, she said, I'm pregnant with twins. But to me, I use that as an example because it's such a perfect example of observation or perception, conclusion, opinion, and then
that's
berating.
Yeah, that's something so should be seemingly benign that ends up being and that was at her baby shower. She was getting ready to one of the great days of her life, and somebody wanted to step in and suddenly get involved like that level. But the thing about it, the reasons why you hear those of us in the community talking about this is because it directly impacts our life. That false opinion, that I'm entitled to my opinion. No, you're not. You're not entitled to your opinion when it misinterprets facts. Because when you misinterpret those facts, a law gets imposed, and then there are people who are trying to undo the Marriage Equality Act. That's what part of the Republican platform. That's part of Donald Trump's platform, is to undo this. So that's where it has to change. It's and people are folding their arms going, I'm entitled to my opinion, which means you can't change my mind on facts. They're not, they're...
With facts.
With facts, thank you. So that's why it's important, this perception of what our marriage is, what our marriage was. I mean, there are people who thought that our marriage was the gold standard, which we were very proud of, and now believe even more.
Or less. Or less.
Who's believing it's less?
Well, you weren't a guy all along, so we thought you were. We thought you were the perfect husband and wife.
Yes, that's the most
right?
horrifying thing. Yes.
Right. We're not husband and wife, so maybe the idea even of marriage is taken less seriously. I don't know, but
that's crazy.
So, I know we have with you guys so much consciousness and brilliance out there. But here's where I would like to conclude this, if this is okay. Because you do contemplate, you do process, you are kind and loving and stop and think how someone might be affected by words and actions. But you don't have to worry about me. I'm obviously never going to get pregnant in this lifetime, so you can touch my belly. I give you permission. But what I loved when we did the Channel Islands presentation with the psychology students there.
Hi, guys.
I think we mentioned this in our last one even, because this young man just struck us so deeply. But what he said was, it never occurred to me before how much we can disrespect you, meaning transgender people, LGBT people. And I would venture to say that could include any group that's perceived as on the outside of the norm, whatever that is. But I never saw before how we can be disrespecting you with our words. And he said, so now when I'm with friends and I see them doing that, I will make a point of bringing that up.
Wow.
So I think that's how we can affect change. That if this can trickle out and spread out, this kind of understanding and awareness and fairness and challenging opinions and conclusions that are not based on fact, and let's challenge them, gradually more and more people will be educated, and we can really create change. We keep hearing about the grassroots efforts and all that, but
yeah, absolutely, man. I think that's what we're doing. That's why we're dedicating ourselves every Thursday. We record one of these, and we're doing the talks.
We're going around everywhere, giving talks and anything we can do.
It seems so contained right now. I wish it would bust out of this so that the messages that we're all working with together, with you guys showing up each week, gets sent out further. But you're absolutely right, and perception is the key right now. I mean, there's all these perceived ideas about what our life is like now, what our life was like then. You know, I was really protective of anybody thinking of you in any particular way other than the highest. You know, even not letting you come on the ski trip because you were suddenly one of other. And we're the longest married couple of all those guys still. And they were all in love with you too. And so they were like, well, sorry, Mars. But they still, you know, were doing something stupid.
I'm
so
not sure I understand.
Shut up, Siri.
Siri doesn't understand.
Yeah. So you know, so it's their perception is changing. That's what we need to do, is change their perception.
Yeah.
Now
Well,
they know.
and so I think as an offshoot of what we were just talking about, maybe we can do more to branch out. If you guys want to comment on this, if you guys appreciate these vlogs, or even a particular one of them that you feel like, yeah, that's a really great point, I wish other people, if you would share, you can share on Facebook or Twitter, and again, we love your comments, and also love to hear what else you'd like us to tackle, perhaps. But again, you know, it's that old shampoo commercial, and they tell their friends and they tell their friends, and that's how word gets out, especially in this day and age of social media. So we could really use your help with helping to get the word out. Yep.
Okay.
All right.
So
So
perception and skiing.
a little
this
note
week.
to our Channel Islands students that we'll be actually next recording something for you specifically and addressing your wonderful questions from our day with you. So stay tuned. We'll be letting you know about how to get a hold of those separately.
Perfect.
All right.
See you
Can't
next time. Light, laughter, and love.